Ooh, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 112 of the Stand Up Guys podcast. I'm your host, incomparable Zach Jones, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother from the same mother, Lester Jones.
Hello, everybody.
And it wouldn't be our show if we didn't have the classic intro, the ninth wonder, chocolate thunder, licking butts and getting in guts, the ass tasting, times a wasting, having fun eating that scrum, the phenomenal one. Hey, Jay, sing.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
Maybe you should ask people to like and subscribe before you do that introduction.
That's why they like and subscribe. I always wonder that, should we plug more stuff off the top to like and subscribe? But I feel like people just know if you're watching a YouTube video, like that they want you to like and subscribe. Yeah. It's kind of cake, built in the cake. Well, we'll see if you want to like and subscribe after we continue our tradition of reviewing every episode of SheHulk. This week, episode 6. But before we get to that, guys, what else you been watching and or doing this week?
Man, I saw the breakdown of Purple Hearts, which is a Netflix movie, and I've seen it like from 2 or 3 different people now. And it is an awful movie.
Purple Hearts? Yeah. Is this like a war movie? What is this?
Well, so like it's really lame. It's this girl who's supposed to be like a liberal, and this Marine who's supposed to be like, I guess, a conservative.
Oh,
and so like red and
like a
blue
romance
makes purple. Yeah. And she needs health insurance, basically. She's got diabetes. She can't get her insulin. It's too expensive.
If only there was universal health care.
Right? Yeah. So, like, and she's just got a shitty life. And then this Marine comes along, and he has health care from the government. And this is not how this works in real life. You cannot do this in real life. But she gets married to him. Like, she knows a guy who he knows, and then, like, they end up meeting. And so, yeah, they get together, and they have this fake marriage for insurance. I guess he gets some benefit out of it, too. I'm not sure. I think he, like, saves money somehow. But,
on blowjobs, I
hope. But, like, it's this terrible story about how, like, they fall in love, and there's, like, no... It just doesn't make sense. It feels like it's propaganda or something. It's just low, shitty, terrible movie. But yeah, I've seen 3 different people just go in on it, and it's just like, wow, man, somebody made this movie in 2022.
I wanted to end with them all happy, but then you know how some movies used to do that thing where then there'd be just like text on the screen, like saying what happened. Text comes up and be like, they broke up 2 days later. They hate each other now.
Yeah, I saw this movie like about this Marine marrying like this Iranian or some sort of like Middle Eastern princess almost. And like they made it out to be this great love story and everything. And then like later on you find out that they got divorced because like he hated that she partied too much. I was like, all right, well, that's that love story for you.
Do you think you could ever make it work with someone who's your political opposite? I just can't imagine it.
Nah. I mean, I've dated Republicans before, but that was before. And also, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't seem like Trump supporters, but if you fast forwarded to like 2016 and later and you find out they're a Trump supporter, then yeah, I
remember the Reagan statue.
Yeah, oh my God, she had a bust of Reagan. I was like, she's moderate, right? Like, I was like, okay. But I don't even know if those exist anymore, man.
I don't know. If you have a bust of Reagan, it seems like you're pretty far.
Yeah, I should have known.
There were red flags.
Although, people will talk about how, like, if Ronald Reagan was, running against Donald Trump, he would have been like, oh, there's Shaky Ronnie or something, some sort of scummy nickname. And the Republican Party today would hate him because he's too middle of the road, Yeah. And I think that's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. I think so, too. I mean, now it's gotten to the point where there's a lot of people who like outdo themselves, like trying to get to the far right because they don't want to be considered like a moderate, like they're stepping over each other just trying to get there.
By the way, do you watch more breakdowns of movies and TV shows than actual?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I watch more breakdown. Like it saves me the time of like having to watch a movie that's not shitty enough to be good bad, but at the same time you get to appreciate the bad quality of movies. You know, you get to see the humor in them that other people found. So I like it. It's a good deal.
And what about you?
You guys are keeping me loaded on bad shows.
Just one.
One at a time. Baby.
One at a time, yeah. So far.
Yeah, once Disney starts airing like 2 Marvel shows a week, then you're really screwed.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that, but you did get me to watch Severed, which was pretty good. And unfortunately,
it's Severance, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Oh, in the show they're called Severed, but
right.
the show's called Severance.
Right.
But yeah, pretty good. But I don't know that I really love that they ended on a cliffhanger, because I'm like, this is one of those shows that could just be blindly canceled. Like it's good, but does it hit like enough people?
Yeah, that would suck. I didn't think about that. That would, because it did leave on a pretty good cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was way up there. I
think people liked it quite a bit, so I'm assuming it'll come back. But that would suck.
Actually, I stayed up late last night for like the first time in a long time, and I finished that episode, and I was like, oh, I got to go to bed. And I got out in the morning, I was like, well, I got nothing to do for a while. I guess I'll keep watching. And I was like, oh, that was the last one. That sucks.
Yeah, they want you to come back. Yeah, great show though, right?
Yeah, it was good.
And then I noticed you've been watching that Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime.
Yeah, I don't know how many of those I've watched. I've watched 4 or 5 of those. It's going pretty good. Enough to keep me entertained.
I've also been watching breakdowns of Christian movies. Like there's a service called service called PureFlix, and it's basically like Netflix but for like Christian stuff.
It's just Kirk Cameron movies.
I think Kirk Cameron is on there.
I dare you to buy a month of that. And just binge it.
There's no free trial. We need you to pay out of the game.
Yeah, definitely. But oh my gosh, there is some variety of just terrible movies in there, and they even try to make horror movies, and they're so tame and not scary.
And it's always like Satan, the devil is always bad guy.
The question is, like, if that's the only TV you had, at some point you would start watching it.
Yeah.
And then more than that, at some point you'd be like, man, I really would like to watch some TV today.
Do you think you'd ever get Stockholm syndrome and be like, yeah, they're making some good points?
For sure. Yeah, if that was the only thing you could watch, then you would develop like an emotional connection to a horrible TV show.
Man, yeah. Like, I've never watched one of those Kirk Cameron movies. I just know they exist. Like, I think there's one called Fireproof or something where he's, I don't know, some Christian firefighter maybe. I don't know.
And he gets burned to death.
A common theme is cancer in these movies. Like, people die of cancer and stuff. And it's just like, all right. I guess they're, like, saying in hard times, turn to God,
Yeah.
That's how you get them.
Yep. God save those guys.
I didn't watch a ton this week, but I did just get out of the theater. I decided to watch the re-release of Avatar because I never got to watch it in the theaters, and like everybody said, like that's the movie you got to watch in 3D. So I did that, and like it's kind of a cool experience. But what I found weird is that I thought the 3D effects were like most like distinct and profound in the scenes where it was just like people talking like in a building rather than like the more fantastical like parts.
I know,
Pandora.
like in some like what opens like in the spaceship, right? So that was I remember that being a impression when I first watched it.
Yeah, there is a spaceship at the very beginning. Yeah,
but yeah, no, I really liked it. One thing I thought was weird was like they're like at some point there's like some pictures like on a refrigerator or something random, but the pictures themselves look 3D, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. I
did notice that, and I was like, is that maybe like a weird effect they couldn't get rid of or something?
Well, I thought maybe they were saying like in the future, pictures will be in 3D. Oh. I don't know. But yeah, it didn't really make sense.
I noticed that too, and I was like, that does look a little strange, but I didn't know if it was just like, something caused by the 3D effect that they couldn't maybe get rid of, and they're just like, it looks distinct, I guess.
How long has it been since you've seen it in 3D?
When it came out.
It would have been like 2009.
I can't remember that stuff, yeah. I just remember I liked it in 3D.
Yeah.
I thought it looked really good.
I was just like a little kid in a candy store. It was just, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those movies where, like, I didn't see it right away. And, like, a lot of reviewers are pretty harsh on it. They were just like, oh, it's dances and wolves in space or whatever, which... Like, I get that, and I get the whole unobtainium of it all. But at the same time... There were a
couple lines, like, on unobtainium that were preachy.
There are, but at the same time, like, I think it's still a fun movie. There's lots of good visuals, lots of good action. And just
on the whole, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's an artwork, you know, just like... like, visually, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Oh, jeez. And then really the only other thing I watched this week is they dropped the first 3 episodes of episodes. That would be a good show of that show Andor.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a new Star Wars show on Disney Plus. And so far, just 3 episodes in, but I'm really liking it. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it.
Yeah.
What is it like? Is it like a Star Wars / Game of Thrones kind of thing or something?
No. Did you ever watch Star Wars Rogue One, which was kind of like a prequel that took place right before like where the original Star Wars movie would have began, and they get the plans for the Death Star.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway, Diego Luna is like an actor in that movie, and so this is a prequel to that story of his character. Kind of, it looks like joining how he joined the rebellion to begin with, kind of.
Man, I mean, Star Wars is that's an intimidating project, I would imagine, for anybody to take on and build this whole world out, because people have been studying it for decades, and like,
some people are so into it.
They will find the plot hole and everything. That's tough.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with like different time periods and like so many characters. Like I'm sure they got like some continuity masters that try to keep it as straight as they can. But yeah, it's got to be difficult, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean it's different from Marvel and DC in the sense that like they get to like wipe everything clean or be like, oh, we did it that way this time, we'll do it this way this time. You know, like they get a little of leeway. But Star Wars is it like everything's like pretty much there's a canon universe, right? Like,
right. So when Disney bought Marvel and started making the new movies, like they basically had to say that a lot of the like comic books and books that people wrote after like the original trilogy and stuff, they kind of basically just had to say, yeah, that's not canon anymore. Or maybe they pick and choose some of that stuff. But yeah, from what I understand, like The Force Awakens like contradicts some of the stuff that was in those things, and now they just call that stuff like Star Wars like legendary material or something. So like you can still read it and stuff, but it basically didn't happen, I guess. Or maybe they pick and choose some stuff from that.
Okay, kind of like Marvel then in that sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
They need a multiverse to wipe away all their sins.
That would be funny if that's like the go-to for everybody who messes up their plot holes. They're like, oh, multiverse.
Yeah. It kind of sucks though, because like I really, really dug The Force Awakens, which was the first movie of the new trilogy, you know. Yeah. But then the other two are just kind of like Last Jedi. I really didn't like, and then like the Rise of Skywalker, I was like. It's okay, but it felt like they had to, stuff like 10 pounds of material in a 5-pound bag because the Last Jedi like went so wrong, and like they tried to get it back on course, but it was just like too much to try.
I mean, to be honest, I don't remember a lot of those movies. I've seen them, but I think Adam Driver, from what I had seen, like his arc could have been really good if he had become like a really dark villain after everything he's been through. Like, even you see the good in him, you see the bad, of course, but like then he did he do that? Like, I don't think so.
I don't know. I just always thought he seemed like an angsty wiener.
Yeah.
In the end, they basically he kind of follows the same path as Darth Vader, where he's like he's a bad guy, but then they kind of redeem him at the end, and make him somewhat good again, before he dies. And it's just like, I don't know. It seems like they could have done something.
Oh, so Adam Driver died in the last movie.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
The turn to evil has never been compelling in Star Wars.
The turn to evil, like Anakin to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the prequels weren't very good, were they? It could have been good, but it wasn't.
Yeah. I think both those storylines were, neither of them were.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The Last Jedi, that movie tried to explain where Kylo Ren went evil. And yeah, that explanation I thought was weak too.
I mean, like in the first movies where you just have this preformed evil guy, invader, that was fine. But like they did not arc into it very well. Like they should have just left that alone, I think.
You think they should have never gone for the prequel?
I mean, maybe, but if you do it, that's like a keystone. Like you have to get that.
I think prequels are tricky because like people are so attached to, the first thing, and they're like, if you're going to mess with it, like if you're going to tell me how this person came to being, like it better be as compelling as I find the character, And that's a tough road to balance, I think. And yeah, most people, it's funny, most people hate the prequels, but from what I understand, like people that were kids when those movies came out kind of, have an affection towards those movies.
Yeah, it's every generation has their like, that bond.
Right.
And that's what's happening now. Like the young people today have a bond with the newer movies, just like the people in the 80s had the bond with the originals.
Yeah, 70s and 80s, yeah. And the only other thing I kind of consumed was comic book wise, I finished my reread of that Gotham Central series. Man, that is a great series. Like anybody who hasn't read DC Comics or is thinking about getting into it, I would definitely put that series like on the old reading pile towards the top of the list.
Man, I think Marvel and DC are coming out with some pretty wild stories right now. I'm listening to them from Comics Explained. Rob Jefferson, he goes over.
Oh, okay.
And I think DC's got a story right now where like how like there's like God in the DC universe. I don't know what he's called, but like a God. But you don't really see him or anything. There's no, you don't, whatever. But there's also the opposite of that God, which is like, it's like a devil type of darkness, and that darkness is returning, and it's taking over. Like Darkseid has made him like a little pawn for himself, and like it's just this massive villain that's just like apparently the strongest they've ever faced, and they've like wiped out the whole story with what's her name, Chronica, or
Oh, I know who you're talking about too, but I forget her name.
I'm mixing her up with the Mortal Kombat lady. But,
yeah, is the series you're talking about? It's called like Dark Crisis or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet. I'm a little behind on my DC Comics. I need to catch up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I know the female character you're talking about because she was in a Justice League book I was reading, and now I forget her name too.
Yeah,
but
totally
yes.
forget. But yeah, I mean, it's just and Marvel's doing the same thing. Like I recently told you about like Hulk fighting Thor.
Oh, right.
They're throwing the kitchen sink with these comics, man. They're like really putting like heavy hitters out there. I don't know. I mean, I thought King in Black was really good too. I love seeing like these villains that are like so compelling and fun to watch. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, like the villains are who make or break these movies, and that's why I think Star Wars kind of has issues ever since Vader left. Finding like another compelling villain. Yeah, like because Thanos was like that villain for Marvel, and everybody got on board with that. I think if Star Wars like sets up the next new villain like that, like Kang is kind of being set up, I think, for the next phase of Marvel. Like, if they could do that in Star Wars, they could have, like, a lot of, people jump on board with their villains.
The other thing with, like, Star Wars is ultimately, like, the enemy is always fascism. Like, it's always, like, a story against, like, the rebels against the space Nazis, basically. And, like, at least the Han Solo movie was, it was more of a heist movie. And, like, that stuff is in, like, the background of the world. But it felt like a bit of a break, I guess. I think the Star Wars is kind of tricky, where the bad guys kind of always feel similar, like they're just an evil soldier,
like Hydra, basically.
Yeah, working for the Nazis, Yeah.
The Empire needs to actually collapse.
Well, and that's kind of But isn't like Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi? So wouldn't that be a time where the Empire like is collapsed?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not a Star Wars.
Yeah, not that far.
Yeah, I'm not a Star Wars aficionado by any means. But
Yeah, I mean, so the Empire, like you're saying, it collapsed. Was that later on in the series?
yeah, well, that's. Or actually, does the Mandalorian take? Now I'm confused. Does the Mandalorian? I was thinking it takes place after. Yeah, I think it does take place after Return of the Jedi. But then I guess at some point this newer trilogy that we just had picks up and the Empire is reborn in a way. So I don't really know the history of
Which one does Yoda die in?
I think he
'Cause
died.
he was the last of his.
He
Right?
he must die in. I mean, he's the first movie he's in is Empire, so he must die in Return of the Jedi.
That might make sense.
I'm sure there's nerds like screaming at us right now because I'm by no means a Star Wars expert. I just kind of casually watch Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I can't begin to explain this stuff.
But anyway, is in the Mandalorian, is he a clone?
Is the Mandalorian a clone?
The little, what do they call him?
Baby Yoda,
Yeah,
Grogu.
Grogu. They haven't said that.
So I thought Yoda was supposed to be like the last of his kind.
Well, I believe there was a female version of his species in the prequels.
And Gremlins too.
Can you imagine two like Yodas getting it on?
Especially
Horny I am.
old ass Yoda. I'll ride you like a backpack.
Finish inside you, I will.
Although, you know why Yoda's like my least favorite Star Wars character is because he's the ultimate buzzkill. He's like, oh, you can't love. Love leads to hate or blah, 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 blah. And he's like, that's why Anakin turned evil, I think, is because Yoda was always like fucking busting his balls over like, don't have any fun. I mean, fuck. Fucking Yoda. You guys got anything else you want to talk to before we get into story time? No. All right, guys. We'll do a round of stories and then we'll get into SheHulk.
Did I tell you guys I met God this week?
You did not.
Yeah, he was crazy as shit.
Sounds like God.
I knew it.
If I could tell by all the global warming and stuff.
No, this homeless dude, he's talking about how he's God and like all this crazy shit. I was like, imagine if you just get to heaven and it's just like some crazy homeless fucker and be like, oh, God damn it. This is going to be a long ride.
I mean...
You know what? That was a test of your faith and you fucking failed.
Yeah. He said he was coming back. You just didn't believe him.
You're going to get to the pearly gates and it's going to be that guy and he's going to be like, and you didn't believe me, flush.
I listened to your podcast. Heard what you had to say.
He was like, I died for your sins and then you committed more. Fun times.
So, did you give him everything you have and devote your life to him?
Yeah. Oh, and there was like a shooting a couple blocks from work again.
Oh, that's always
That's
nice to
exciting.
hear.
What did you ask God about that?
Might have been God working in mysterious ways.
Why do you let these things happen, God?
He's like got a gun in his. He's like, oh.
It's thunder.
Making it rain blood.
Story time then?
Story time.
All right, guys. Anyone who hasn't watched or listened, we're going to go around the table. Everybody's going to bring a wacky news story to the table, and we'll see if we can't just make something funny and or entertaining out of it. And as tradition dictates, we usually start with AJ. So, AJ, what do you got for us this week?
If you're a fan of memes and particularly of Today I Learned facts, then you might want to pin your ears back because this tale focuses on one of the goats in meme culture of the past few years. Okay, he wasn't actually a goat, but he was a giant ape. We're talking, of course, about Harambe the gorilla. Now you probably remember Harambe was tragically shot back in 2016 after a young child managed to get into his enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo. For the safety of the child, a large adult male gorilla is a dangerous prospect in such situations. A difficult decision was taken to shoot poor Harambe dead. There really wasn't much that could be done about it, but in that controversial and sad moment, an internet legend was born. Anyway, this is a positive piece of news, relatively speaking. This is because it turns out that Harambe's bloodline did not die with him, because his sperm was taken after his death, so that there may one day be the pitter-patter of tiny gorilla feet bearing the same genetic makeup as the internet's unlikely hero. Despite the fact that Harambe was 17 years old and had not reached breeding maturity at the time of his death, Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens director Thane Maynard said at the time, "There's a future. It's not the end of the gene pool." The details have since been pretty thin on the ground, as we can't fully be sure whether any children will ever be born from Harambe's sperm, but Cincinnati Zoo has a very successful breeding program for apes and monkeys, having seen more than 50 over a history stretching more than 50 years. In truth, Harambe himself was brought to the zoo having been born in captivity in Texas to be part of a breeding program. However, he met an untimely end to the fateful day back in 2016. One thing is for certain, he'll never be forgotten, having passed over in a rarefied air of online celebrity and immortality. While he may never have children in life or death, he will always have an army of internet acolytes who remember his story and for whatever reason choose to get their dicks out over it.
What?
What? You see that?
Just seeing if you're paying attention.
I guess. I don't know.
Dicks out of? All right.
Maybe this is that English website. Maybe that's
Yeah.
it's an expression over the pond.
R.I.P. Harambe. But I mean, look, Harambe wasn't like a genius gorilla. I don't understand. I mean, his life was cut short and he was meant for breeding. I think that's what this really comes down to.
Are people going to go there and be like, "Oh, that's Harambe's son"?
Yeah, right. Let's shoot him.
I don't want kids, but like, if someone wants to, like, after I die, like,
Drain your balls.
drain my balls and make someone else raise my kids, I guess go for it.
I mean, if it makes the world a better place somehow.
Well, it would if I was carried on, I'm sure.
Like if somebody was fulfilled in life by raising that child.
I don't see how they couldn't be.
But yeah, all right, more Harambes in the world. That's something.
All right, Manifesto Round 1.
Men fined for eating raw squirrels at vegan events.
Oh no!
So, two guys.
It's just like on a stick.
They go to a vegan event on purpose, apparently with dead squirrels, with the sole purpose of eating them in front of vegans.
I mean, who are you hurting? You're hurting yourself more than anybody.
It feels like it's going to be like one of those ones where they're like, oh, and they died of freaking...
rabies or something.
What's that one that mice have?
Bubonic plague?
Oh, dengue fever or whatever.
No, apparently they have more than one because I'm thinking of a different one.
Oh.
But yeah, he just died of some mouse disease. Actually, there was a story where somebody ate a rat and died of bubonic plague.
I can see that.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
It'd be funny if they just had like live, like not even like butchered squirrel, just like, and they're just like biting its head off, like really gruesome shit.
Like
Well,
they didn't even
they
skin
said it was raw. I think there is a picture where it's got like
That's so
It
nasty.
didn't have fur.
the
on
hair
it.
on it.
Oh my god,
You can see the little furry legs and shit down there.
that is wild.
I figured they like at least like cooked it and like.
No, raw.
Ugh.
Veganism equals malnutrition is his shirt.
Oh yeah, I'm sure eating a fucking
Yeah,
unclean
raw
squirrel is real good for you.
Man, they are not making their point.
Hantavirus, that's the one I was thinking of.
Oh,
So
okay.
3 people, three viruses. Yeah.
I don't even know if the one I said is for mice or not.
Butt to mouth disease.
Mice AIDS. Anything more on the squirrels?
Nah.
Okay, I got one for you. Naked Carpenter has been jailed again after exposing himself just hours after being released. I mean, that guy's definitely going to get Carpenter's balls.
He gets out of jail. He's like, I haven't been naked in like days.
But by the way, I get that there's nudists and like people who just love being naked, but if there was one activity where I would think you'd want maybe just a little bit of something covering you, it's carpentry.
That's one of them.
Like sharp power tools and shit.
They get a sliver.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're working with wood. Maybe have some pants on. Let's see here. A man branded the Naked Carpenter has been jailed after he was caught wearing see-through pants to a police station. Just hours.
He wore them to the police station.
Yeah, not just that. And that was just hours after he had been released. Robert Jenner from Maidstone is a proud...
I'm back and I got pants. How do you like it, motherfuckers?
Is a proud naturist and has been in trouble with the law in the past for his insistence on going around in the buff. And the 49-year-old has now been convicted for breaching a criminal behavior order, which meant he had to wear at least 2 layers of clothes.
He's like, my underwear. They're also see-through.
Yeah, that'd be fun. To prevent him from exposing his genitalia.
There's a rule that says you have to wear 2 layers of clothes.
For him, yeah.
Like, sir.
It's like we call it the Robert Law. It was imposed back in 2019 at Canterbury Crown Court to try and curb Jenner's behavior. In order to get around it, though, Jenner arrived at Maidstone Police Station on the 12th of January wearing see-through pants and a mesh thong. Well, he did have 2 layers. There you go.
He's like, yeah, he was in compliance.
With DC Melanie Bolt and PC Homam El Sinawi recalling that they saw everything as he arrived. Robert Jenner has been jailed for breaching a court order. During the trial, the court heard that the incident happened on the same day that he had been released from prison for a large number of offenses for exposure. Defending Jenner, barrister Niall Doherty said, quote, he still believes the top he had been wearing in the police station covered his genital area. At the trial, prosecutor William Snedden said, quote, he left prison, went to the police station to make inquiries about a mobile telephone, wearing clothes he hadn't been wearing when he had left prison. The former soldier claimed that it was a breach of his human rights to force him to wear clothes, and he admitted that he didn't wear underpants during his shifts as a delivery driver and actually had a hole cut in his crotch. The jury took just a few minutes to come to a decision, and Jenner was convicted of breaching his order and sentenced to 1 year in prison. It is the second time he has breached the order. Passing the ruling, Judge Charles McDonald, QC, said Jenner had showed a contempt for the court and the law. The 49-year-old claimed it was a breach of his human rights not to allow him to go out in the buff. In his most recent trial, Mr. Doherty said, quote, he is a naturist and often goes to naturist beaches in France, Marbella, and the Isle of Sheppey, including swimming. He doesn't regret anything, but he is thoroughly sick of prison. He also claimed that
can't be too fucking sick of it.
He also claimed that his client's behavior had nothing to do with his sexual desires and was not sinister. Judge McDonald said the order had been the result of persistent criminal behavior. In court, Jenner was asked, quote, do you consider yourself to be a naturist? And he replied, yes, to me, naturism means being open. Because Jenner had been on remand since the incident, he is expected to be released immediately from custody. However, he will remain subject to the order. I mean, even if you love being naked, when the threat is to be imprisoned, aren't you going to be a little more careful, wouldn't you think?
I mean, he wins at the end. He can be naked in prison. What are they going to do about it?
Yeah. Depends on your inclinations whether it's a good thing.
He'll be very open. But the whole naked carpenter gimmick, that seems like a terrible decision.
Oh, that sounds horrible. But I can't help but just imagine, we were all naked human beings to begin with. And now, at some point, we're at the point where we're like, this person's not wearing clothes, it's just so, for most of our history, we were like, why would we put on clothes? That's just so restrictive.
And there's still cultures you're like, well, that's your culture. They can be naked.
Yeah,
They can walk around with just like a hollowed out stick on their dick.
Yeah.
that's how they live.
Makes sense.
that is true. Like, shame does creep in pretty fast in America.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I told you both this story. I think Ajay heard it, but I was in the car. I don't think I talked about this on the show, but it was me and Roman. The two kids were in the back, and they're picking me up from work, and like we're going down the street, and there's this two homeless people, and there's this like old like crone, like just fucking buck ass naked, and I tell the kids, I'm like, look over there, don't stop fucking looking over there, and then like one of them, he's just like, okay, and the other one, like he looks back and he's looking, I'm like, fucking look that way.
Oh, he's a curious cat, that one.
I like he's defiant, but it cost him that day. Fucking dried up like titties just hanging all over the place. Oh.
He's like, I'll look wherever you want me to, Dad.
Yeah, then we're driving. And he's like, why was she like that? And Mom's like, oh, she has mental problems and drugs and whatever. And she's like, don't do drugs. And he's like, she was horrible. It's like, well, somebody just like, took one of those like core memories and put it on the shelf.
Well, she taught him a lesson.
That's why you always listen to your dad.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I was gay as a goose.
Yeah, she could have scarred him for life.
I was like, Jesus Christ, this is horrible. I've seen a couple naked people working that close to downtown, and it's like, you don't want to do it.
I gotta say, I've never just seen someone naked in public.
I'd say this is like my fourth time. Like I saw a woman running across the street in front of me one time. I've seen two old women, and I saw like one like big black dude from the backside.
What is how?
It's like, oh, I don't need this in my life. Oh yeah, I walked around the corner to like an old dude taking a shit. I was like, Jesus.
We need more public restrooms, man, for the homeless and stuff. Like,
well, it was really bad with COVID because like all the McDonald's and everybody just closed their doors, and suddenly there's like nowhere to shit anywhere.
right? Yeah.
I will say, I don't want to see people like that woman naked, but just from a freedom standpoint, I think as long as it's not in a public like building where there's like a health risk, like people probably should be allowed to be naked.
I think we get used to it pretty fast.
I think so too.
I think so.
But nobody sexy would do it. Nobody you want to see naked would do it.
Honestly, a person's not sexy after like 5 minutes of being naked. Like once you've seen them for a while,
Some
like,
people.
you just get you get used to it.
Yeah, I don't want to get used to it.
Sure you do. Well, that was story time. Guys, should we do it? Should we review She-Hulk episode 6?
She-Hulk.
Shulky.
All right, so this episode of She-Hulk entitled Just Jen. So we start off with Jen gets an invitation to be a bridesmaid at a wedding, and she like opens the invitation. And there's like tons of confetti. Now, I swear like the invitation said like the name Julie on it, but apparently like this woman's goes by Lulu or whatever. That's what they call her for the rest of the
show. Don't pay too much attention.
Yeah. What could it mean? Now, okay. So like her and Nikki, like she's getting ready for this thing, and she does one of her fourth wall breaks. And actually, I kind of called something from last week because I said that, they teased Daredevil, and I'm like, well, a lot of times when they have a steep cliffhanger like that, the next show they don't, do anything with it. A lot of shows do that. I think it's just to get people to make sure they come back 2 weeks in a row rather than one or something. I don't know. But basically, she breaks the fourth wall, and she's like, oh, a self-contained wedding episode. Well, that's inconvenient. Like, weddings are inconvenient. So I had to forget exactly what she said. But basically, she's specifically like busting our balls saying, you wanted to see Daredevil, didn't you? Well, it's not going to happen.
It's like, we know this is bad writing, but we're gonna at least admit to it.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to ask. Like, did you guys think that was clever or just annoying? Because I lean towards annoying.
Yeah.
It was trying to be clever, but like the rest of the show has to have something. Otherwise, you're just telling the truth, and it's a horrible one.
Well, and that's one thing I've noticed in this show is I really think like the writers are writing in a very defensive manner, where they're like, okay, like the people that are going to be watching this are going to be men's rights activist assholes, and we got to write this show where we
Piss them off.
where we totally like throw something at them every episode. And to me, I'm like, I don't think the majority of people who would give the show She-Hulk a legitimate shot are probably, men's rights activist types. I'm certainly not, and I feel like I don't need this lecture,
Yeah.
And that's what
It's preaching.
that's what it feels like every episode is there's a lecture. It doesn't,
I do feel like it's tones. It's backed off from like the first couple episodes where it was like every 5 minutes.
although I will say there's something that we'll get to at the very end of this episode where I feel like they just are doing it again.
Yeah.
So I'd like them to
There's
see
definitely like some messages coming before the stories, coming before the characters, just coming before like any like thing that would make it good.
I feel it's like when we criticize this stuff, we almost can't win because people think that we're then becoming like those people. But
I mean, we haven't had any like comments where people are like, "Oh, you're pieces of shit."
That's true.
Well, not yet though. I mean, feel free.
we need more viewers before
It's
we get there.
okay.
Gotta
More
get some-
haters.
Gotta drink
Get
in
some
front of
more
them. They'll
haters.
figure it out.
No, it's
We can corner the market on man hate.
it's like I really am okay with them like addressing like issues that women face, but when you do it like they've been doing it, just I don't know.
The biggest issue she's actually faced is like another petty bitchy woman.
That is
That's the
kind of
bad
true.
part.
That is kind of true.
Also, Titania, like, she's not the villain. She's not the villain of this show. Like, she's too not evil enough. Like, she's not evil.
Yeah, if she's the villain of this piece, she's a very weak villain.
Yeah.
As we'll see in this episode as well. Anyway, Jen shows up at the wedding as She-Hulk in like her dress. And is that dress like the one like the guy?
It's one of the designer ones.
Okay, that's what I thought. This angers Lulu because basically Jen's soaking up all the attention as She-Hulk. So Jen promises that at the wedding she'll show up as herself and not as She-Hulk. So now we go back to the law firm. So this guy named Craig Hollis, who goes by Mr. Immortal,
Oh yeah, Mr.
he hires Miss Book, who we find out her name is Mallory, as to settle like a divorce case. And so we find out that basically this guy's been married a bunch of times, and eventually he gets tired of the spouse he's with, and he quote unquote dies, because when he dies, he comes back to life. Hence, Mr. Immortal. But here's the logic problem with this. He's basically like faking his death, right, to get out of these relationships. But as we see in a minute, he throws himself out the window, dies, immediately comes back to life. So, like, how did he convince all these people that when he came back to life, was he holding his breath and still
Right. I think after you get hit by like the 4 cars or whatever the scenario was, like you still have to play dead for a little while until they like go away.
Yeah, like one of them said he took a cyanide pill, but it's like, well, he would have just came back to life. Was he just like sleeping there pretending to be dead?
Maybe it's like the caveat in the license is like till death do us part.
Yeah, I think that's what he's focusing on. Like, he's dead. Like, all right, I just died. That's it.
Contract fulfilled.
Yeah, we're over.
Okay, so but then like in a later scene, it seemed like a lot of the people were saying that like he fooled them into thinking.
Yeah.
Because at first I thought, just like you did, well, and he kind of mentioned that, like, yeah, he's technically dead, so death would do their part, the marriage would be over. And I'm like, that seems like kind of a weak thing, but okay. But then later on, it made it seem like, oh no, he was faking his death. These people actually believed he was dead. But then that just brings up so many other questions of like, how did he actually pull that off?
Yeah.
And it's just he's kind of an interesting character, but when you really think about that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So yeah, Nikki and Mallory, they kind of start arguing in front of this guy, causing him to jump out the window, like I said.
I felt like, I was like, I commiserate with this guy.
Yeah. If only we could all do that. No.
You're just like in a conversation, you just get tired of it, and you're just like, see you later.
Yeah, I definitely feel that.
But then, like, he landed on a car, and there's a bunch of people around. And I was like, he could have landed on somebody. Huh?
Yeah, there could have been someone in that car that he just fucking killed or something.
True.
So now we're back at like before the wedding, like a wedding party type thing. And Titania shows up at the wedding party. I wrote, Lulu acts like Jen is crazy to be suspicious of Titania, even though they just went through like a court case where they were, opposing each other.
She's like, well, like apparently, like she picked up one of the bride's friends as a date, and so she could come as a +1.
Yeah, it was very odd.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah. This happens all the time.
It's New York City is a small place. Like everybody knows each other there.
So yeah, I just thought it was like she's acting like Jen is like a real loony for like thinking Titania's like out to get her, and it's just like she was literally just out to get me. Yeah. Like we had a court case. Didn't you watch the last episode? So Jen goes kind of outside and she starts getting hit on by this guy named Josh. But then Lulu immediately.
What? So was that guy the +1? Like, did he bring Titania?
They didn't say that. She asked him if he had a +1, and he said no. And she was like, she didn't understand how it was decided who gets a +1 and who doesn't.
Okay, I was feeling like suspicious of him, but maybe I wasn't.
Well, and we're maybe right to be when we get later on in the episode. So he hits on her, but then Lulu immediately comes over and asks her to start cleaning things up. And like this was constant, like Lulu being a bitch to her and like, treating her like she's lesser or whatever.
Yeah, she was not a likable character.
No.
You're just like, why are you friends with this bitch?
Exactly. So now there's a meeting. Mr. Immortal's exes are in a meeting with him, Nikki, and Mallory. Mallory says that she can help him, but he's got to pay. And like she was kind of being like treating him like kind of shitty, and he's like, aren't you on my side or something? And she's like, well, not really, but I'll help you, but you got to pay me or something.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't just like walk on them, because they were really kind of pieces of shit too.
I know, like they acted like no lawyer would act at all, Okay. So the bridesmaids now give Jen the groomsmen's clothing to either like iron or wash or some shit. Because they were playing Mario Kart and they got wrinkly or some weird bullshit.
Yeah.
There's something I forgot to mention earlier is like they were going through the wedding and they're like, okay, you're going to be walking with so-and-so, you so-and-so. And she's like, do I not have someone to walk with? And they're like, oh, you're walking with Jonathan. And all the girls are like, oh, Jonathan's so cute or adorable or whatever. Well, now we find out that Jonathan is like this little like dog.
Did they make like some reference to like he had died and they resuscitated him or something?
I don't remember that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
But yeah, this ugly dog. You're like, well, I don't know. He's still a dog.
So now back to the court. Mr. Immortal tries to pay off his exes, says he'll split his fortune with all of them evenly. But then they argue because like one woman's like, well, I had a kid with this son of a bitch and you were just with him for this such and such length of time and all this kind of bullshit. So now, God, this was stupid. Nikki gets all of them to agree to a settlement that involves like all this weird shit. Like one woman just like gets an apology with like eye contact or something. Just a bunch of really stupid bullshit that I don't even know if it's worth talking about.
Yeah, it was like 20 seconds.
This guy's like, he's like in the corner and like he just keeps killing himself. He's like, God damn it.
His story is actually interesting.
I wish
in
I
the
could
comics.
die.
Oh, what's his story in the comics? I'm not super familiar with him.
Well, he's lived like a horrible existence. Like everybody dies around him. Like there's like I think there's like a being that's kind of like connected to him or something that kills people that he cares about around him, but doesn't do anything to him. Like I think he's cursed by that being or something.
Oh, so he's like he lives forever and like he has to watch all the people he loves die.
Yeah.
The only way I can have a relationship is with these bitches who I hate.
Yeah, it doesn't kill them.
He found the loophole.
All I gotta find is the worst women around.
So now back at the wedding party, Jen gets drunk and she kind of has like this flirty conversation with that Josh guy. But then she has to puke. So she goes outside, and while she's puking, Titania comes up and basically gives her like a hockey punch to the face, which is so hard that it sends her flying back. Now, I don't know how the Hulk powers work, but she doesn't have like a mark on her.
Right. I thought she should have been dead right there.
She should have at least had like a broken nose or some shit. Well, in like the first Avengers movie, like Banner talks about like he tried to commit suicide, but
right.
the Hulk caught the bullet after he shot it. But like she didn't change into the Hulk immediately getting punched. So are we to believe like just her like regular person frame took that punch and was fine?
Right.
I guess. Because she was also drunk. She's like, I forgot how to be the Hulk.
Right. So yeah, Titania, and also like when they're outside here, like nobody notices this is going on.
Right.
But Titania basically says she wants to fight her, but she wants to fight the Hulk, so she wants her to Hulk out. And like you said, yeah, she's drunk, so like she's having trouble like hulking out or whatever. At first, just her legs hulk out or whatever. But eventually, she hulks out. She causes like a big earthquake with her stomp or whatever that sends Titania back into the wedding party. So now like everybody realizes that they're fighting. So this fight doesn't last very long, and Titania just like slips on something on the ground, like ice or something, and slips and like breaks her veneers, like her teeth. I mean, so even the action in the show is like nothing.
Yeah. There was like a punch in the
She's just a social media person. Like, isn't that her whole deal?
But she apparently has powers of some kind, right?
Well, yeah,
like
she has
super
powers.
strength or something.
Some kind of strength,
Yeah.
it seems like, yeah.
God. So now Lulu comes up, and we would kind of think she would be mad because like Jen hulked out, but like she's not mad, and I think like she must be drunk or
Yeah.
something.
Seems drunk, yeah.
Yeah. So now back in the office, Mallory reveals to Nikki that she's married with a kid, and so this makes it seem to me like we probably won't get Miss Book scissoring She-Hulk in the future,
Yeah.
which is a little depressing
disappointing,
and
yeah.
very disappointing.
Another cliffhanger. Down the drain.
This show is just
I
giving
won't
me
say
less
it.
and less hope. You should say.
Clit hanger.
You know what? It was worth it. It was worth the wait. Okay, so after that conversation, they're like on the computer, and there's like some sort of pop-up about like a She-Hulk hate group or
Right.
something. Like, why would they just this random pop-up? That
Intelligencia, I think, is the website.
yeah, so they actually created an account based on this pop-up, and yeah, so it joins this like group called Intelligencia, which is like this online hate group that specifically hates She-Hulk. So then again, like we were talking at the
We should make that website.
we might be already. I don't know. Our YouTube channel is becoming. But again, this is once again like that kind of defensive, like let's hate on the haters. Like they're the ones that got to be watching this. I don't know. It seems weird to me the way they're constantly harping on this.
We should do like a She-Hulk skit, but like one of us has to get painted green.
Not it.
Not it. You came up with the
Let's
idea.
call the whole thing off.
You have a beard and everything.
But also, like, wouldn't the guys that hate She-Hulk on this site, wouldn't they basically hate every female superhero, and it would be like, and not just like She-Hulk specific?
At least Carol Danvers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I assume she would be on there. People seem to not like her for some reason. I don't know. So Nikki leaves Jen like a phone message about this Intelligencia place. But her and Josh are now sharing a batch of French fries, and we find out that this Intelligencia group is like spying on them. And it seems like possibly finding a way to steal her DNA, because we know they were trying to do that
they're
earlier.
still trying to get her DNA.
But I was like, are they somehow like she's eating the French fries and is that stealing her DNA? Or are they just like getting ready to steal her DNA? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a bit confusing.
I still think that guy from that date before has something to do with it, Tim or whatever. Because like they brought him back for the next episode. So
I don't know. Now I'm thinking that if any guy is going to be like, you know, working for the bad guys, it's going to be this Josh guy, right?
yeah,
yeah, maybe they're gonna
maybe
have
they
like
both are.
ghosts of.
Or maybe the twist will be
Boyfriend's
this
past.
Josh guy is actually a good guy. I don't know.
Like, I did hear a theory like online that the girl who invited her and this Josh guy are both working in tandem with whoever's like trying to get her DNA, and
Not Lulu.
like it's weird that she invited her to the wedding, right? Like, and made her like a best.
I feel like that Lulu lady's too much of like an airhead to be like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Well,
And plus she like went to high school with her.
She
or
was
something.
definitely drunk enough they could have stolen the DNA,
Yeah.
the blood.
It's true.
Josh is like, I collected the DNA on my dick.
Which is over there now. I wouldn't want to bang she. Like, I would want to because she's hot, but
Sure.
she would rip that thing right off. Like, as soon as she gripped it, she, boom, game
You
over.
think so?
Oh, nobody could fuck She-Hulk. Who could?
Well, somebody could have. Bruce could.
She's cursed. She can only bang her cousin.
Well, she banged that one dude, so
Oh yeah, he was sound as a pound.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that was very realistic. I think she would have murdered him in real life.
That's his kink, is to be with someone who can like manhandle him.
Yeah, she's just throwing it at him. He's got like indentions on his body.
Now, so we've had this episode. Do you think we'll get Daredevil next episode? Or
I hope so.
By the way, I'm going to try to call it. I'm going to say the episode he shows up, the episode title is She-Devil.
who's he defending or what's the case? He needs to have a case.
Well, I'm guessing maybe he's had a run-in with this Intelligencia group or something.
I see.
I mean, I don't know. What would you say?
What is it? The hand?
I always thought Kingpin would be the thing that like ties this all together, but
That would be too interesting.
yeah, yeah. I don't think they're gonna reintroduce Kingpin from that cliffhanger and Echo or that Hawkeye.
But you made a good point. Like, we've seen enough Titania now to know that like she's doesn't seem interesting enough to be like, you know.
And she's just not like malicious enough to be a real villain. You know?
No. But it is weird that this show, like, it wants to be self-contained episodes, which I guess would be fine if they were all self-contained episodes, but there is, like, enough, like, foreshadowing and continuity between them that, I don't know, it's weird. It doesn't work, though.
Yeah, it's a strange choice. I mean, especially when shows started going with these like long seasons where you could have, you know, a continuous storyline. Like, it's proven out to be like a much better format than just like a sitcom or whatever those series used to do back in the day.
I mean, I feel like certain things are fine for like, a lot of old school sitcoms, Seinfeld, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they made it work.
Comedies like that are fine for it, but then like...
I mean, like Seinfeld was very funny for me, but I was never like hooked in like I was with like Breaking Bad or something.
Yeah, I'll grant you that.
Like you're not as attached. You're not like, it's not as compelling. Even though, yeah, I mean, there's definitely shows that work.
Well, that's because of the idea of those shows is you can jump in on any episode and it's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not really true with this show.
Yeah, it's
like
some weird bastard.
Like if you were just to drop in on this episode, I mean, you would get it, but there would be enough beforehand that you didn't know that.
Yeah, you'd be missing some context.
Right.
I don't know.
Whatever it is, like, yeah, it's kind of hard to put your finger on it exactly, but it's not working well.
It's not working.
And I don't see 3 more episodes, whether self-contained or not. I don't see them saving this show in my mind.
We've been going with this for a while, and part of me is like, should we just stop? Like, we've just been flailing this dead horse every week.
I mean, we got to finish it out now. I mean, and I know we sound like we're just hating. Like, I do hope always that the show improves and gets better. It's just...
Yeah, and
I still am intrigued to see Daredevil.
Yeah, I think this is all kind of like homework, because just to be like caught up on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything that's going on in it, you kind of do have to like know about these shows and movies that are coming out.
That's true.
She's just going to meld into the bigger universe and be like, she went through such travails with those dating scenes.
It's going to be worth it when they show all those women heroes together again.
But on top of that, she has no arc at all. Like,
honestly, if they filter her into like a big budget movie, like I'm just going to want to see her like get an action scene that's actually good.
Or, well, I mean, like Bruce has multiple Hulks, like, so maybe she could have a different, like, PMS Hulk or something. That'll get some mail. That's a soundbite for you.
You know what? Maybe we do deserve the hate from female groups. Maybe we do. Maybe we've earned it.
There's already a Red Hulk.
Oh, yeah, Red Hulk. That's funny.
Sexism. Tried and true classic.
Well, should we leave these people on a cliffhanger? Anything you guys want to add before we go?
I'm looking forward to Daredevil.
Yeah, me too. Like, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed they don't ruin Daredevil. Right. But yeah, I still am interested how they like kind of fit him in. It's gonna be cool, hopefully. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, anybody who's still with us, hopefully everybody's still with us. Please go on to the YouTube, subscribe, leaves comments. Also, you can subscribe to us in audio form on your podcast service of choice. And actually, we've been getting more subscribers and comments and stuff. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And also, if you want, you can come over to Twitter and talk to us there as well. And guys, where can people find you on Twitter?
At a name for this too, and that's number 2.
At unsolicited SUG.
And you can, of course, find me at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. And that is going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Have a good one.